Hey everybody, this is the Marine with Backpacking with a Hammock. Now that you have a hammock that fits you, you have a suspension, you know how to set it up, you can stay warm throughout the night with the different types of insulation. You decide on what style and length of tarp. Now we have to learn how to set it up. In the 6th episode of Beginner's Guide to Hammock and Hammock Camping, we're going to look at some of those ways that works best for you. Now the first thing we're going to look at is a ridgeline. A ridgeline is just some type of cordage that's tied from one anchor point to the other, in this case a tree, and it holds the tarp off the hammock and the ground and is tied down securely. Ridgelines fall under one or two types: the end only tie out, a tie out on each end, and a full length tie out, which is called a continuous ridgeline. What we're going to do is look at some of the types of the continuous ridgeline. The first thing we're going to do is tie a knot on the end of this paracord. There's different ways of tying a loop on the end, and I'm just going to show you two of them. So what you do is you make a loop, pull that through, and you secure this back end, the loose end, and just tie a regular overhand knot. And now you have a loop. Now the next one, you come up about 8 to 10 inches, you grab the end, you make a loop, and you tie an overhand knot. And now you have a loop knot, and this is very secure. You don't have to tie the end out. This is not going anywhere, but you want to cut off this loose end. And you want to burn the end. And this is important, otherwise it'll fray, and this way it'll help secure it. Now you take that loop you tied on the end and wrap it around the tree. Then you take the other end of the cordage, you put it through the loop, pull it through. So when you go to set up your tarp, you'll have two trees. One will be wider in diameter, the other one will be skinnier in diameter. You want to put the loop on the wider end, because this way you can put the loop in the middle and it won't interfere with the hammock strap. Now if you come to a smaller tree in diameter, you want to put the loop more to the side so it does not interfere with the hammock suspension. Now I'm going to take my ridgeline and wrap it around this anchor point or this tree. Now with the cordage wrapped around the tree, you want to go about 2 feet down from the tree, grab it, twist it, and make a loop. You reach in this loop and you grab the line that's connected to the tree that you just wrapped around and pull a loop out. You take the end of the cord, put it through that loop, and then you pull it nice and taut. Then what you do is you pinch this end by the loop, you bring this over and under, and you make another loop. And you pull it over. And then you always want to put another one in. Some like to put 3, I just put another one in. Now when you run your ridgeline around the other tree that's smaller in diameter, when you tie it off, you'll have this V shape, and you'll put the suspension of the hammock inside that V, so it will not interfere with the hang. Holds nice and secure. And what's nice about this system is when you're done, you just pull that loop out, pull on this end, it's off. And now that loop you put 2 feet from the tree, all you have to do is pull the other end and it's out. I believe this is one of the most simplest way to set up a ridgeline with a paracord. Now that we have the ridgeline set up, now it's time to put on a Prusik knot. And a Prusik knot is a cordage about 1 foot long. What I did, I made a loop, I tied it, you can splice it, about a 12-inch cordage, small cordage, this is Zing It from Dutchware, and you make a loop. You take that loop and you set it on top of the cordage, like so, and with the knot on this side, and then you reach through the top and grab the bottom part and bring it through the top loop, and you do it 3 times. That's 2, and that's 3. And then I'll pull that tight. So you got this loop hanging out, and then I'll dress it, push it nice and tight. Now you can take this knot and slide it up and down very easily. But when you hook the tarp up and you go to pull on it, it will not move. It's nice and tight on there, and it's easily to adjust your tarp to the position you want. Now that we have the ridgeline set up, now it's time to hang the tarp. I got the tarp all set up. I got the Prusik knots adjusted exactly where I want the tarp. Next thing to do is to stake it down. But before we do that, I want to show a couple different ridge lines. Now, what if we have a poly tarp? How do we set up a poly tarp when there's no grommet in the center? And I'll show you how to do that, because these nylon tarps can be expensive. So if you're starting off, I suggest getting a poly tarp unless you're doing a lot of hiking and putting some mileage on. If you're just trying it out or setting up camp, I really suggest just get a cheap poly tarp. They're under $10, and give that a whirl first to see if you're going to like this. Now, I purchased this poly tarp from a department store. It was 12 by 10, but I paid under $10 for this tarp. And now let's set up the poly tarp. Now the poly tarp is set up, but there's one problem again. I got grommets on the bottom on both sides, in the middle on both sides, and there's no grommet on top here to secure it on the ridge line. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a way to set it up by using stones. What you want to do is find 2 little stones. So you want the edges on the stone rounded. You don't want no sharp edges. Now we're going to set up the tarp with these 2 stones. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little carabiner on the loop of my Prusik knot. So then I move my Prusik knot back. So then I'll take a piece of the cordage and cut it out about 12-inch section, and then put a loop on each end and make sure I burn the ends off so it holds it secure. And then what I'll do is put one loop in the other, like so. Then I'll take my rock, put it inside the tarp, and I'll ball it up. Then I take that loop, put it around, and pull it tight, and now that will hold the tarp secure. I don't think it really damages the tarp at all, but this is a really slick way of doing it. Then I hook it up to the carabiner, and then I can adjust my tarp. And this will hold it on there nice and taut. If you don't have a grommet here, all you need to do is find a small stone that's rounded, ball it up, lasso it, hook it up to your Prusik knot, bam. Now I got my tarp all staked down. I got that stone in there and it's all secure. And another thing, this is a big tarp. This will provide a lot of protection. And with a lot of material, I really suggest if you do use a poly tarp that's 12 feet, 11 feet, I would definitely tie down the middle section, because if it's windy, this will help secure it. Now this is, like I said earlier, this is a really good tarp to start off with. If you're going to get into hammock camping and you don't know if you're really going to like it, go out and stay overnight somewhere, or state park, wherever you can, and give it a try. And this way it's not too expensive. And if you don't like it, there's no, $10 isn't much to lose. And if you do, you can upgrade to a nylon tarp, and you still can use this tarp also for doing yard work. Now, though this paracord ridgeline is inexpensive, it's on the heavy side. You can see it's bulky, and the problem with this, it stretches a lot. And I like to show you a different type of ridgeline by Dutch Wear Gear, and you can see the size difference. Now, Dutch calls this Zinget. It's made out of Dyneema fabric. It's very strong. It doesn't stretch. It's probably stronger than the paracord, and it's very lightweight. It has a urethane coating on there, so it doesn't soak up the water so much. And it comes with Tato tarp connectors. And you can get it with a Prusik knot on there. And it has also a tarp wasp and a little Dutch hook. that wraps around the tree instead of a loop, so this will set up faster. And if you backpack, this is really lightweight, real packable. Now with a poly tarp, you want to put it over the ridge line. The nylon, you can put it over. A lot of people, like I said, like to put it underneath there to get a nice pitch. Now with the Cuban fiber or Dyneema, you want to put it underneath the ridge line, because Cuban fiber does not stretch, and you really want a nice taut pitch to protect you from the wind. Now I'll show you how to set up this type of ridge line. First, you take the end of the continuous ridge line with the Dutch hook attached to it and wrap it around the tree and hook it to the zinget. Then take the other end of the continuous ridge line, wrap it around the other tree, and adjust the wasp. Now that tarp wasp slides up and down the zinget. First, what you want to do is take this zinget underneath the wasp, bring it up and over the bottom of that tail, and this will hook it secure. Then you wrap the line around the tree on the other side. You bring the cordage around this hook, you pull it taut, you bring it around the antenna in front, and then around this wing, and you pull it tight. Now that you have the continuous ridge line up, now it's time to set up the tarp. You take the Tato tarp connector, put the one end through the D-ring of the tarp, pull it tight, and connect it to the ridge line. And then you take the small hook on the other end of the tarp connector and you bring it up and over the line. We just looked at a couple styles of continuous ridge line. Now let's look at the end-only tie-outs. Now the two end-only tie-outs that I'm going to use has hardware on there. I got a Dutch stinger. You can put a Dutch fly or flea on there. And I have 20 feet or 7 meters of zinget. And I'll show you how to set these up. What I like to do is first wrap this around the tree, and then I'll hook it up and just leave it. Now just like the wasp, you bring it underneath that hook, bring it around that antenna, then around the wing, and pull it tight. Then I'll take the tarp and hook it up to the stinger. And then I'll pull it out. And then I'll take the other stinger, hook it up to the D-ring, and then I'll wrap it around the tree. Wrap the ridge line around the tree to the height you want the tarp to be. In this case, it's 5 feet. Then tighten it up. Now with the tarp set up with the end-only tie-outs, now you need to set up the hammock. And once the hammock is set up, then you adjust the tarp over the hammock. Now I just set up this tarp, but before I pulled it out of the snakeskin, I made sure I adjust the tarp so it was over the water breaks. Now you can see that the water break is underneath the tarp. Here's the tip of the tarp here, and the water break is underneath the tarp. This is really important to make sure that the water breaks are exactly underneath the tarp. Now this is 11-foot tarp, and I'm using an 11-foot hammock, so I really got to fine tune it to make sure I get it just perfect, because you don't want any water coming in. Now you can see that this water break, which is a whoopee sling connected to my continuous loop on the hammock, is underneath the tarp. I have about 2 inches from the tip of the tarp down here, so this is well protected. And if it was going to rain, I'd make sure the tarp was pitched low like that, so I'd have that water break right about there. These are just some of the ways to set up the tarp. Well, this concludes the 6th episode of the Beginner's Guide to Hammock and Hammock Camping. The next episode we'll be looking at ways to pitch the tarp, to stake it down, and more. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below and share. If you found this video to be helpful and insightful, please hit that subscribe button. That just notifies you when the next video is coming out. And if you have any questions or comments, I really love to hear from you, and write them down below. This is the Marine with Backpacking with a Hammock. Thank you for watching, and God bless.